is this really a training camp battle, or is it just this is the receiving core? Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Samori Toure, at least that top four especially, all within their first 3 years in the NFL, mostly second-year guys. What a good group.
Yeah.
But no absolute star. I don't know if there's going to be a training camp winner or loser here. Bo Melton's in the mix as well. But, yeah, just a good deep group with different skill sets to tap into for Jordan Love.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only real competition element of it is it's kind of between Christian Watson and Dontavian Wicks. I mean, I think Romeo Doubs has shown enough that he's a solid number two, and maybe the initial hype on him got a little bit out of control, but I think it had substance to it. Doubs is maybe not going to be a superstar, but the reason he shocked everybody right away and surprised people relative to his draft position is he's a good player. He's a good NFL player. Jaden Reed was a really encouraging slot guy, but Christian Watson and Dontavian Wicks are the guys with the sort of big sort of number one X potential, and Watson is now coming into this year with this weird story of having uncovered like a dramatic disparity in muscle volume between his legs which were either because of or contributing to or both his hamstring issues, which have apparently been largely resolved. If Christian Watson is now, a hamstring trouble-free as a weapon, that makes him very intriguing given his size, speed, big-time playmaking ability. Meanwhile, Dontavian Wicks just looks like a better overall player, albeit without the kind of the overwhelming physical skill set that Watson brings to the table. So that, I think, becomes the interesting training camp battle. Like, does the superior player of Dontavian Wicks beat out the superior athlete who now might be healthy?
Yeah, I don't mind Wicks maybe getting more of the reps overall, because Watson became the guy that I love, right? The Will Fuller type, the deep threat. And then the way they used him in the red zone. Remember, we were at camp last year and they're just running him on deep crossers and saying, here, keep up with me,
right,
cornerbacks. I'm going to outrun you. If they just lean into Watson's skill set as a speed receiver, they were using him on end arounds. He had all those touchdowns in part because he became an incredible big play threat and a red zone threat. Like, I'm okay with that as Christian Watson's role. Maybe that does help keep him healthy over time. And Wicks maybe is a little bit more of a complete receiver. I don't think you see that from Watson. He doesn't catch the ball as consistently. I don't think he's as clean of a route runner as he could be. Maybe he's tidied some of that up. But if Watson's just a guy that's going to catch 50 passes at like 17, 18 a pop, I'm okay with that in Christian Watson's role. And maybe Wicks is a little bit more high volume. And as you mentioned, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed working out of the slot, moving around. I mean, they've got some different skill sets to tap into there. And I think ultimately it's not a battle so much as tap into all their skill sets properly, and the Packers are feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah, I mean, even if the sort of dynamic between how much opportunity Wicks versus Watson gets is I think a legitimate moving target right now. Like, having them along with Doubs, Jaden Reed, Bo Melton, like it's a really deep and good wide receiver group. The other sort of competition here that we didn't mean to talk about, but Tucker Kraft versus Luke Musgrave, I think that should be a real competition based off their rookie seasons where, Musgrave missed time. He was the higher draft pick, and Tucker Kraft at the start of the year didn't look very good at all. But by the end of it, given the opportunity that was there because of Musgrave's injuries, Kraft looked amazing. And, maybe that's not enough to unseat Musgrave as the sort of primary tight end target, but maybe they just become, again, doesn't really matter which guy's getting more opportunity. You've got both of them now. But I think he should have an opportunity to kind of split that workload now with Musgrave.
I mean, all these reasons are why the Packers are, a highly touted team going into this year. All of those receivers that we mentioned in their first 3 years in the NFL, the tight ends, same thing, first 2 years in the NFL, none of them are first-round picks. So this is, incredible job by the Packers from a scouting, volume drafting perspective to bring all these bodies in here, have it coincide with Jordan Love taking over, and whatever that turning point was last year, halfway through the season, right around Thanksgiving. Since that point, man, the Packers' offense looked really, really good. Jordan Love dropping dimes in there, and these receivers and their unique talents all coming together at the same time. So Yeah, that tight end group of Musgrave and Kraft is definitely another one to watch. I think Musgrave at the end of the day probably gets the nod still with his size and ball skills, body control. They were, again, when we were in camp last year, they were trying to feature him quite a bit, moving Musgrave around. They know they have a big body mismatch creator in Musgrave, so I think he ends up being the guy. But yeah, Kraft did some nice stuff down the stretch.
It feels like it's a similar dynamic to the receivers where Musgrave is the superior athlete. I mean, he's the one that looks obviously more dynamic and more impressive. But Kraft may have been a better player by the end of last season. Now, I don't know if that's going to be true heading into this year because obviously Musgrave was dealing with the injuries, whereas I think it probably is true with Watson versus Wicks at wide receiver. But definitely, Musgrave is the one that catches the eye from an athleticism and movement standpoint.